Kia ora koutou, I'm Dr. Suzy Black from Plant and Food Research. I'm here at our Nelson Research Centre, which is located right in the middle of Port Nelson and the hub of the fishing industry. Our research centre houses 8 labs and our finfish facility has a capacity of around 325,000 litres. A little bit about me, I'm a senior scientist here at Plant and Food Research. I have a PhD in fish physiology from the University of Canterbury and around 25 years experience researching physiology-based finfish capture, handling and post-harvest technologies. So this evening I'm going to talk a little bit about Plant and Food Research and the group that I sit within, and we'll then get into the good stuff and talk more about the fish-focused approach we take to our research. And I'll be sharing with you the 3 major research areas I've been involved with over the last 25 years that have all shared this underlying approach. And these areas are rested harvesting with Aqui-s, precision seafood harvesting, and open ocean aquaculture and the mobile production systems. So a little bit about Plant and Food Research. Plant and Food Research is one of 7 government-funded Crown Research Institutes, and our mission is around developing sustainable food production systems. Here's how we're working towards a smart green future for Aotearoa together with our partners.
Our smart green future starts here. We believe science can create a better future. By finding smarter, greener options today, we're helping secure the world we want to live in tomorrow. With our partners, we use world-leading science to improve the way they fish, grow, harvest and share food. Every day, we have 1,000 people working across Aotearoa, New Zealand and the world to help deliver healthy foods from the world's most sustainable systems. Working together, we can create new fruits, better grains, exciting foods and great nutrition in a world with fewer chemicals, greater biodiversity, reduced waste and a resilient food supply. We answer complex biological questions, design innovative products and technologies, and look over the horizon for new ways to grow a smart, green future.
Our research is focused on 3 areas: future plants, fish and foods, sustainable resilient food supply, and blue skies for growing futures. Our sectors are wide-ranging, allowing us to leverage expertise from many science areas. Our legacy organisations have been around for a long time with the creation of the DSIR in the 1920s. These days, we have more than 900 people across 14 sites in Aotearoa and internationally. As you can see, we have sites throughout the Motu and also have a presence in Australia and the US. Plant and Food Research is on its journey to build stronger relationships with Māori towards a smart green future. Tono is the name of our strategy, which guides our efforts to achieve this. Our strategy takes a long-term view and will be realised over 10 years. Our vision is to work together with Māori towards a future where mātauranga Māori and science evolves research and innovation opportunities for Aotearoa, New Zealand. Our mission is to be recognised as a trusted research partner to Māori. We share in the benefits from co-innovation in horticulture, seafood, plant and food research, and champion the value of Indigenous knowledge to the globe. Currently, we're focused on establishing our foundations as an organisation. There are 3 simple goals there on the left: an invested organisation, kia hau kaha tātou, co-innovation with Māori, te mahitahi, enabling huatahi partnerships, te huatahi. Each goal has specific priorities that Plant and Food Research can progress together with Māori to realise our vision and mission. The research portfolio I sit within is seafood technologies, and our focus is on maximising value from seafood resources. So what drives our research? Globally, there's a seemingly never-ending appetite for seafood, but we live in a resource-limited world. And as you saw with Plant and Food's Māori strategy, we're seeking to integrate mātauranga Māori with our research. And we also know that seafood is a great source of protein, but we also know that we can do far better than what we're doing at the moment. And within the seafood technologies portfolio, sits the seafood production group. Over the last 25 to 30 years, we've spent a lot of time and effort developing ways to make the most of what we catch. But we're also looking at how to make more to catch and increasing productivity, but always with that underlying theme of fish-focused design. So a little bit more about this approach. What is fish-focused design? Our approach is a little bit different from other people. We bring everything back to the fish. At the heart of our group is fish physiology, so our focus is on the whole animal. We want to know, what does a fish need to be at its best? And what it comes down to is not creating a technology or a process and then hoping your animal will slot right into it. It's about fitting the process to the needs of the animal, supporting the animal to be at its best. So I've talked a little bit about our fish-focused approach, and now I'm going to talk about 3 major research areas that I've been involved with over the last 25 years that have all shared this underlying approach. And these are rested harvesting with Aqui-s, precision seafood harvesting, and open ocean aquaculture and mobile production systems. Rested harvesting with Aqui-s. Back in the early 90s, salmon farming was a fledgling industry in New Zealand, and there were quite a number of quality issues. And this was linked to the harvesting process, whereby the salmon struggled really intensely during harvest. And the research team wanted to see if quality could be improved by taking out the intense exercise component prior to and during the harvesting process. And this was linked to the harvesting process, whereby the salmon struggled intensely during harvest. As you can see from this video, and apologies, it's a little old, this is a very violent process back in the early 90s. And not great for the animals. You can imagine the amount of damage done there with the fish. Essentially, what the research team wanted to do was be able to harvest the fish in a way that the fish were rested, so that they weren't fatigued, they weren't exercised, and they weren't damaged. And after a period of research and development, they found that harvesting fish with a food-grade anaesthetic gave the best results. And I think from the next video, you'll all agree that this is a lot more gentle on the fish as far as a harvesting process goes. So what are some of the other benefits of rested harvesting? By removing the damage and exercise, the stress and fatigue during the harvest process, we see a huge improvement in welfare, fillet quality and consistency, and also better fillet texture, less gaping, blood spot and bruising, and energy is also retained in the muscle, which delays the onset of rigor mortis, or the stiffening of the muscle. So rested harvesting with Aqui-s is a handling and harvesting technology that is now exported and used around the world. It's approved for harvest use in New Zealand, Australia, Chile, and Vietnam. And it's also approved for use as transport and handling in Norway, Iceland, and the Faroe Islands. But we were left with that glaring question. It's all very well rested harvesting in the controlled confines of aquaculture, but how can we apply those concepts from aquaculture to our wild fisheries? When we started looking at Hoki, our focus wasn't initially on harvesting. It was on improving post-harvest quality. But it soon became apparent that the condition of the raw material, the state that the fish were landing on the deck of the boat, was really the issue. Once again, lack of control and consistency were governing product quality. We had to start looking at where the damage was happening, where the fatigue was happening, and which was prior to the fish coming on deck. And when you're faced with this type of quality coming up on deck and you're being asked to improve quality, you've got pretty limited options apart from optimizing storage conditions. So this brought up a lot of questions for us. Firstly, we wanted to know what undamaged Hoki looked like. And secondly, where was the damage occurring? Well, we went handlining for Hoki and Cook Strait so we could minimize the physical damage. And this is what we found. These fish came up from around 200 metres, and they certainly weren't delicate fish, which is what we were led to believe. You definitely knew you had one on the line. They struggled for quite a while on the way up. And they were probably 11 of the most expensive Hoki that we've ever caught, but they really surprised us. These fish were very impressive, and taking the damage part out of the capture process showed us what Hoki actually looked like. These fish were stunning. Rather than being in blue, greeny, grey fish, they had bronzy pink sheen to them, and their fins were intact, and they actually had scales. These fish were absolutely beautiful. But back to the second question, where was all the damage occurring? And we needed to see what was happening during the capture process. So my old boss, Alistair Jarrett, he developed cameras that could survive down in the trawl at around 400 metres, and this is what we saw. So what you're seeing here is a conventional mesh cod end, and you can see the Hoki at the back or the toe of the cod end, and in front of that massive fish are other fish that are able to swim on their own, not banging into each other, not damaging each other, not particularly exhausted. And so it wasn't until we saw this footage down in the trawl and we could see the behaviour down there that we really had that aha moment. We started asking ourselves questions. Why do we have to strain the fish out during fishing, during the capture process? Why do we have to exhaust them? Why are we damaging them during the harvest process? And this leads us into our second example of the fish-focused approach to our research, and that is precision seafood harvesting. From that footage down in the cod end, we started thinking about what the fish needed during the capture process for them to be at their best. And that's what directed our design. The physiological tolerances of the fish came to the fore, matching the water velocity inside the trawl to the swimming speed of the fish. We wanted to minimize turbulence so fish didn't collide with each other or with the trawl gear. And we were giving control back to the fish during the capture process. This next footage is footage from the flume tank trials we carried out in Beauty Point in Tasmania, and it demonstrates what we were aiming for. The water velocity inside the cod end we created an environment that was much slower than the velocity outside of the cod end, which you can see by the red balloon in the video. The blue balloon going over the top is the velocity outside. So the trawl speed can actually be around 3 to 4 knots, but the water speed the fish would experience during the capture process and the cod end would be a fraction of this if we could create that environment. We carried out a lot of flow tank-based testing of designs, but for this research to be effective in the real world of commercial fishing, it was essential for us to demonstrate proof of concept at commercial scale. And this is what happened. In early inshore fishing trials, we were able to land fish that had minimal damage and minimal fatigue. These fish were pristine and looked like they were destined for the aquarium market. And this level of demonstration really piqued the interest of our industry sponsors to the point that they wanted to commercialise the technology. And this led into the precision seafood harvesting commercialisation program. The next clip I'm going to show you is a bit of a compilation of quite a number of tows, but it'll give you an idea of the in-trawl environment we were able to create with the modular harvesting system that was developed. Here you can see the modular harvesting system being set away. The modular harvesting system is a flexible system. It can go on and off a net roller at the back of a boat, and it's fleeted and shot away the same as conventional mesh sections. You can see this is a camera looking outside of the gear and along the gear towards the toe of the cod end, and it remains very stable in the water column. It also flies above the bottom of the sea floor, and it's really, really stable, and chafing gear isn't actually required. And the trawl maintains its shape. The headline height and the door spread don't change with catch volume, and the swept area also remains the same. The ground rope obviously still makes contact and fish still enter the trawl the same. And the footage you're seeing at the moment is a conventional mesh trawl, and you can see the tumbling and the damage that is likely to be occurring in there. This footage here is of fish within inside the modular harvesting system. You can see the fish are looking after themselves. They're not banging into each other. They're not damaging each other. And the fish have gained that control. This is another image of the modular harvesting system in the deep water fishery. So this is coming into the trawl. This is the mesh trawl. This is the footage we saw before of the Hoki tumbling in the back. This is the modular harvesting system. And you can see the Hoki swimming. they're looking after themselves, they're not banging into each other, and they're certainly not back against that cod end toe being strained out. This is probably one of our most favourite videos of all. This is Alfonsino. These little guys just about swim like butterflies and use their tail as a rudder. But you can see these guys are organised, they're controlled, well controlled within the trawl. And it doesn't just stop within the trawl itself. The quality improvement of the fish being landed on deck is significantly better, as you'll see in the coming video. This video here is of Hoki coming up from 400 metres in Cook Strait, and as you can see, this is very lively fish. Most of the crew aren't used to fish this lively. Mostly Hoki come up on board moribund. A lot of our research has been sampling fish on deck, and this is one of our researchers, Jared Jansen, taking some samples of Hoki. These are Alfonsino coming on board. The difference in these was quite remarkable. A lot of the crew didn't know what they were. They thought they were a different species because normally when Alfonsino come on board, they're bright orange all over. These had a silver flank. This is the footage we saw before on the inshore boat. And as you can see, the quality is absolutely pristine. These fish are undamaged. And this is the benefit of being able to control that harvest process. And another benefit of the modular harvesting system is what it means for long tows. In a number of fisheries, long tows are required to be able to catch enough fish. This next video will contrast long tows between conventional mesh cod ends and the modular harvesting system. So this first clip is of the conventional mesh cod end. This is after a 7-hour tow, and you'll find that it's chalk and cheese between the modular harvesting system for a similar length tow. The modular harvesting system fish are much more lively, and obviously you can see the difference in colour and quality of the animals. And so this is not just also fish quality, but also then leads into benefits for the crew. They can actually tow for long periods. They can actually take a break, obviously with someone on watch, but the crew can actually get some sleep in these long tows without jeopardising fish quality. The modular harvest system lands fish into water, so this is a major reason why the animals, once they are on board, show very minimal damage and low fatigue. And we see much greater survival, particularly in the inshore species, with the potential of undersize and incidental catch compared with a mesh cod end. And as I mentioned before, vessels can get away with towing the modular harvesting system for extended durations without compromising the fish quality. So PSH, where are we now? The modular harvesting system is approved for use in New Zealand deep water and inshore fisheries. And the initial approval was in 2018, and it was limited to certain areas and certain fisheries. But further data collection has resulted in a wider area and fisheries approval in 2021. Commercial rollout of the modular harvesting system across the deep water and inshore fleets is continuing, and greater realisation of the operational efficiency, fish quality, and value cascade improvements continue. So over the last sort of 20 odd years, we've spent a lot of time and effort developing ways to make the most of what we catch. And that's demonstrated in the examples we've just talked about, the Aqui-s, the rested harvesting, and also precision seafood harvesting. But we also wanted to start looking at how to make more to catch, so increasing productivity, but again, always with that underlying theme of fish-focused design. So a number of years ago, we undertook some research around looking at ways to harness free-ranging fish and efficient production. But we kept coming back to the same issues around ownership and the transient nature of some of our key species. But we then started talking about stock enhancement and restocking initiatives, and in particular, how you could transport large numbers of juvenile fish at low cost by sea. And we started thinking about fish enclosures that could transport fish within an internal environment that you could tailor for the fish, whether it's the fish size or the swimming speed. And this led on to discussions about how long it would take to get from A to B and what the fish would need in terms of food. And so we started thinking about this, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, why can't we grow them in these structures? And so we ended up turning traditional static intensive aquaculture right on its head with an idea around going mobile. And this leads into our third example of mobile production systems and open ocean aquaculture, or ngātai hohonu. And we're really looking at how we can grow fish in captivity, if you will, in the ocean to feed a growing population. So what will this not look like? Well, we're tackling the open ocean aquaculture challenge for quite a different perspective compared with the international efforts. Overseas, the approach is to heavily engineer to withstand the harsh open ocean environment. So you've got structures that don't move so that they withstand the environment year round. Our approach is to take a soft engineering approach, and that is that we work with the environment rather than against it. And we're obviously trying to design these fish enclosures to work with the fish. So they're designed around the fish for the fish. We want these systems to be resilient. So mobility was a big part of that. You're not stuck in one place, and you have the ability to follow the environmental conditions that are optimal for the fish and provide resilience to climate change, and grow healthy, resilient fish and provide options for biosecurity. So the mobile production system, or we like to call it the Pacific Way for open ocean aquaculture, is specifically designed to support the biological needs of the fish, and with the thought that this will improve growth in temperature conditions, water flow, health and welfare. And it really plays to New Zealand's strengths. It utilises New Zealand's geography and oceanography, as we have a huge economic exclusive zone, or EEZ. And we think that this type of production system will alleviate a number of existing issues, such as social license, some of the biological issues animals face, and those resilience issues mentioned before. So plant and food research and open ocean aquaculture research. So we have a research program called Reimagining Aquaculture under the MB Endeavour Fund. This is a 5-year program started in October 2019, and it's really focused around snapper and Chinook salmon. Chinook salmon, because it's the only commercially aquacultured species in New Zealand currently, and also snapper, which is one of our iconic species and a potential for aquaculture in the future. And also Plant and Food have made a significant commitment to open ocean aquaculture research with long-term funding. This is of around 10 years duration. It started in January 2020, and this is around supporting fundamental research in this space. So looking out, say 20 years and trying to understand what science is industry going to need to be successful down the track, so we can start now, so we've got that science ready for industry. So the concept around reimagining aquaculture was to develop a flexible, mobile and readily tunable system that could utilise New Zealand's open waters to support optimal conditions for different species and also different life stages of fish. And the mobile nature of the technology allows for constant optimisation of environmental conditions and water quality. And it allows production of high welfare, healthy, resilient fish. And what do these prototypes look like? These are some of the early examples of prototypes that we've trialled out in Tasman Bay. On the left there, you can see a nice calm day out in Tasman Bay, and it's a very low profile in the water. We're looking to submerge these prototypes. The site on the right is a slightly more rough day out there in Tasman Bay, but as you can see, it's a very, very low impact visually out in the bay. And this fish-centric research, our role, particularly in this reimagining aquaculture program and with all our research, it's really to demonstrate what is possible out there, what can be done. And then in the longer term, it's also our job to then develop that knowledge and also the tools to assist us turning that possibility into a reality. And the conclusion of this, and there is really only one for me, and that's look after your fish and they will look after you. So I think we're moving in the right direction. We're really making the most of what we catch, And this has been across extractive fisheries as well as intensive aquaculture. And we've managed to achieve this by focusing on the animals and really understanding the fish, what the fish needs during the harvesting or the aquaculture production process to be at their best. And so you can imagine the benefits of really transforming seafood production. We can take less fish, but make the most out of them. So looking at 100% utilisation and the best quality, we'd have far better quality and much better returns for fishers. We would have sashimi quality inshore species. We'd also be growing fish under appropriate conditions all year round. And this really aligns with a number of initiatives. It strengthens New Zealand fisheries management and seafood production. It also supports transparency and traceability along with eco-labelling. It's just assuring the consumer that you're buying good fish that is produced respectfully of the animal being eaten, the environment it comes from, and the livelihoods of those producing it. And we hope that we've helped you understand how New Zealand seafood production really is improving. We're not done yet. We've got a long way to go. And what can come next? We've just talked about that fish-focused approach to both wild fisheries and also aquaculture. But we want to take that another step further. It's and not just focusing on the fish, but also focusing on the environment around it. We must take a holistic view of the environment that we're moving into. We haven't had a great track record in the past of production systems, whether they're land-based or in the sea. We've had a heavy impact on our environment, and we must do better. And this has been an intergenerational issue, but I think we're moving along the right track of really taking that overall view of the environment when we are looking at production systems. But some of the other key factors and research areas that we're looking into over the next 10 years for New Zealand, and not just plant and food, but other research agencies also, is microplastics, a huge topic, some of the threatened species, marine mammal and bird interactions, the triple bottom line, benthic impact, discard bans, and also cryptic mortality, and also on growing issues.